Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, honoured guests, it is a pleasure to be here. My name is Neil Orve. I'm not sitting down at the moment because I once read that the ideal speed to walk at if you want to maximize your brain faculty is 1.9 kilometers per hour. So at least until I start asking the panelists the questions, I'm going to walk for a while. Putting this panel together has been a roller coaster. Yesterday alone, we went from 3 panelists to 2 to 4 to 5, and now we're back to 4. So I'm delighted that we have these 4 esteemed and incredibly experienced panelists to take us on this journey. The GCC, on average, spends 8.5% of GDP on education. That is approximately 50% more than the US and nearly double the equivalent GDP spend of Europe. So the importance given to developing national talent across the GCC is clearly strategic and primary. So this is an important panel, and to take us on this journey, I'm going to ask each of our esteemed panelists just to introduce themselves for 60 seconds, because they can do it much better than I can. So, Dr. Adil, starting with yourself, please, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is AlZarooni. I'm no stranger to Riyadh. I came in 2004. Me and a colleague of mine here now coming to visit me, Dr. Ahmed Fnayan, and we were part of the founding team of Mobily. So we structured the company and we launched it in 2004. So my background is telecommunication and security in specific. So I was an ethical hacker by hobby. Merged into economic zones development. So I was part of the team that advised on King Abdullah Economic City at the time. Did that for 10 years. Currently running a couple of family offices focused on healthcare, education, financial services, consumerism, technology, FMB, FMCG. And lately I've established a venture studio around a year and a half ago, whereby I operate my own venture studio, and I operate a couple of venture studios with universities and economic zones.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adil. Dr. Munira.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Munira Jamjoum. I'm an educator and education entrepreneur. I've been working in the education human capital sector for about 20 years now. It seems like a very long time. I started my career actually in academia, then moved to management consulting in the human capital development sector and public sector development with Booz & Company, today's Strategy and before acquisition from PwC. Then I decided to go solo, set up 2 vehicles to support education development in the GCC. Most of our work is in Saudi Arabia. We do a lot of school development, so we work with school operators to help them set up school platforms. We work with the government in areas like privatization, human capital development, strategies for human capital development, and it's been a very exciting journey post Vision 2030. I've recently set up a new education vehicle, which is an online learning platform called A'nab, which is my new baby, that focuses on teacher professional development in the GCC. So we have over 180,000 teachers learning on our platform with partnerships like the Harvard Graduate School of Education and many other universities.
Thank you very much, Munira. Ghassan?
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Neil, thanks for having me, and very delighted to be part of this panel. So as you can see, my name is Ghassan Mirdad. I'm known actually in the energy sector. 28 years, out of which 26 in the oil and gas. 24 years with a renowned company called Schlumberger, a company that works in the services of oil and gas, and they move you all over the world. So most of my career was international, was not in Saudi. So I worked in Asia, Middle East, Europe, Africa, and Latin America. So I went as far as Malaysia in the east and as far as Brazil and Bolivia in the west. My career started as a field engineer and then moved up the ranks, took different leadership positions, but I think one position that really resonates with today's panel, I used to be the head of training and development for Schlumberger worldwide. You're talking about 120,000 employees, 5 mega learning centers, and it's something that's very passionate to me. Learning and development is something that I'm very passionate about. I get involved a lot in universities, I sat in some of the boards in Abu Dhabi University, in some of the academies here in Saudi as well. The last 2 years, I became the CEO of Arabian Drilling, one of the service companies that provides rigs for Saudi Aramco. It's a very renowned company, 60 years. Actually, 7th of April is our 60th anniversary that we're going to celebrate this year, inshallah. Very happy to be with you today.
Thank you, Ghassan. And last but not least, my fellow National Talent Project member, Nasser.
Thank you, Neil. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum, jami'an. I'm really happy to be here, part of the team today. It's really a wealth of experience to be in this panel today. And my background is really a geologist. I'm a geologist by background, and I have around 17 years of experience, mainly in the oil and gas. And I was a colleague of Ghassan in Schlumberger. We worked together in Saudi and then in Oman as well, in several positions across the GCC countries. In the last 4 years, I'm managing director for Oman Institute for Oil and Gas. So we are really like, let's say, mini Harvard, dedicated for the energy sector. So we are leading a lot of initiative when it comes to education sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nasser. So let's get started. So I'm going to sit down now. So Munira, ladies first. I would like to start the discussion around the role that educational institutions play in equipping individuals with the necessary skills to meet the demands of the future workforce. So you've got a very wide experience ranging from school age right through to professional education. What role should educational institutions play in preparing the population for being workforce ready?
Great. I think this is a discourse that no one has a real answer to even today. But what we know for a fact is that education institutions need to go through major transformation and major innovation change every 4 to 5. And education institutions that aren't able to keep up with this major change every 4 to 5 years, they're really going to find it challenging to contribute to national development of their economies and even globally. What we are seeing today is a discussion on the different potential models that can, where specifically tertiary education can change. And I'll give examples of what we're seeing. We're seeing some incremental changes, for example, in new credentialing. So you find a lot of the universities, Harvard included, and other tertiary schools focusing on new credentials, micro-credentials, building credentials with large employers that are being more adopted by the labor market. We're seeing governments as well building their own national platforms, and this is becoming a norm. A lot of the governments are building their national platforms, and national qualification frameworks of countries themselves are becoming very flexible to new credentials. Is it a major change? Not really, but it's one of the changes that are happening today in higher education to adapt to the labor market. The second one is the education and work nexus, where today, and we have a lot of students from PNU attending with us today, and they're really supposed to be the ones that are telling us what they are expecting from tertiary education to support them in the workforce. But there are pilots, different programs where a lot of the companies are already working with universities. For example, in Saudi, under the Human Capital Development Program today, we are trying to instill a policy where every student before graduation has to take a 6-month internship in some kind of training or internship before graduation. It's not yet a national policy. The third area and the last where I see higher education adapting to the workforce is omni-channel learning. So today education is everywhere and nowhere, and universities have to adapt because work is not tied to a location anymore. So universities have to adapt to that, to being, I think that the universities of the future will be everywhere.
So just to pick up on one thing you said there, every 4 to 5 years, there needs to be a new iteration almost like a pivot.
Because you need to adapt to the pace of technological
That's fascinating.
change and the learner profile.
Well, that's great for educational professionals like us, isn't it? Very good news. Okay, Dr. Adil, you have a wide experience in entrepreneurship and education. Could you maybe give us an Emirati perspective, a UAE perspective on this question?
How many hours do I have?
3 minutes.
Fantastic. In order for us to understand what to be done with the education system, we need to have a bit of background of why is the education system the way it is today. And for you to realize that the current education structure, whereby you start KG or FS and then you 12 years and then university and all of that, came only in the last 200 years for a very valid reason. Do you know the reason?
Tell me.
It started in 1800s because there was an invention that happened then, vaccination. The key word that all of us are not very happy with, but vaccination is the reason why the education system is the way it is today. Because with vaccination, human population went from 1 billion only in 200 years to 8 billion. Do you know how much it took for human species to go to 1 billion?
Pretty much the whole of humankind, I'm guessing.
300,000 years.
Yeah.
So 300,000 years, 1 billion. 200 years, 8 billion. So countries and economies needed to find a way to produce a lot of the same. A lot of engineers, a lot of teachers, a lot of lawyers, a lot of doctors, a lot of the same. And hence they needed to create a factory, which we call today school, the education system we are in. Now what changes? I mean, why should we change that? It has worked for 200 years now. Reality of the matter, we as a species will plateau within less than 50 years. We might arrive to 10.5 billion, and then we'll crash as a species. And there's no way around that. So by the end of this century, we would be probably 1 billion or 1.5 billion less. So we'll be dipping like this. What does that mean? It means two things. First of all, you'd realize that the education system did not concern itself with our happiness or quality of life. It was just concerned with creating a lot of the same. It needed to care for such a huge population growth. It needed a lot of infrastructure, a lot of ways to handle. So our quality of life was not really a concern with that. The second thing, the moment human population crashes, all economic structures that we are currently living in, things that we take for granted, like the stock market, PE multiples, like pension programs, like this whole excitement about the future will all diminish. Because the moment we crash as a human population, it's no longer the employees that we need to produce.
So based on what you're saying, can I iterate that the educational systems need to also be creating a work-life balance, happy, satisfied workforce, as opposed to purely functional?
It's almost unfair and it's almost sad that we go through this whole education system and it's not concerned with our happiness.
So is this linked to, I live in Dubai, I've been there for 2.5 years now. This is why everything is about happiness, and we always have to say how happy we are.
Yeah, and actually it's time that we look at it, because human growth and economic growth, human population growth and economic growth is not going to stay the same. We can take a breath as a species. We lived an anomaly. The last 200 years is an anomaly. I mean, no species should grow so much, yeah? But we did, and now we are going to plateau and accordingly go back to being humans. And being humans has to consider elements of quality of life, and then has to consider other elements, which comes to skills. And I'm sorry, I might take one more minute. When it comes to skills, the education system, the way it's structured today, produces people of two traits. They are committed, they attend certain times, do their tasks, and they don't do mistakes. And that's the trait of the ideal employee. But in real life, in entrepreneurship, in business, failure is the norm. 90% of companies fail within the first 3 years. 90%. Yeah? So what's the norm? Is it failure or success? Success is the remote. It's so remote as statistically.
I know what you mean. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years.
So shouldn't we be training for failure? On how to handle failure? And how is it that failure is the norm and Success is the exception, and this is the way to do it. What does that mean in education is that they have to start working earlier on, and they have to multi-venture earlier on. And dealing with failure has to be intrigued and integrated into the learning process.
So there's a lot to unpack there, ladies and gentlemen. In 5 minutes, you've had 300,000 years of educational history. So I hope that was videoed and goes viral because it deserves to. We will now move on. Gassan, I would like to move to you, please, sir. So your corporate experience is truly incredible. I first heard you speak at an IDC event just 2 months ago, and I've been chasing you ever since to make sure you were on the stage today. So thank you for joining us. I would like to ask you, how can business and industry collaborate with educational institutions and government to bridge the gap between academic learning and practical skills that are needed in the workplace?
So in Saudi, with the 2030 vision, there are 46 strategic academies just to deliver the vision. Out of which, where I'm going to focus more on the oil and gas, which is my sector, out of which only 13 just focused on Saudi Aramco. And I think it's an initiative, me working all over the world, seeing such an initiative is really, really remarkable. So the way it works, it has different stakeholders. So it has mainly three, I say four, but let's start with the three. So you have the client, Saudi Aramco. You have the human resource fund. And then you have the TVT, the technical vocational training, that provides the facility. So these three stakeholders, and then you add the fourth one, which is all of the service companies that we have in the oil and gas today. And they're like more than 30 companies. We work together, and what we say we came with an institute, an academy, that you start in the academy with a job. So you're employed from day one. You graduate from high school, you're employed. Me as an end company that you will come on board, I will pay for your salary, kind of salary or minimum wage, and I pay for a minimal fee to support the academy. And I don't take one or two, I take, for example, 50. So what happens is the fund compensates me most of the salary that I pay for the employee. This supports me financially for 2 years, that I can sponsor 50 candidates to come to me. Most of the fund covers most of their salary. So I'm paying a bit of their salary and most of the support for the institute or the academy itself. What happens is the companies provide technical expertise, sometimes donate some equipment. So for example, we literally drilled a full well that cost more than 10 million just to provide a training environment in a very controlled manner for the candidate. Other companies provide equipment. We provide technical requirements. We alter the course itself. And by that, after 2 years, I have candidates who are ready for the workplace. In the past, what happens, I used to hire a high school graduate. I put him in the workforce, and he gets trained. He goes to rig A, another one goes to rig B. But the amount of exposure and training depends on the manager of that rig. So there is no consistency. Today, with this program, 2 years program, you have consistent output on what we want at the end as end product for us. So today, you would find, for example, almost 300 students who are actually hired by the company, sponsored by the company. So you're actually hired from day one and you're a student. You know which company you're going to work for at the end after 2 years. On top of that, you're counted in your Saudization. So you have literally an employee. It's not someone you're just paying their salary and it doesn't count. Any activities, we invite them to our activities, so they're immersed with the company as well. And this created jobs and opportunities for a lot of candidates who didn't know where to go. And there is more than one institute. I mean, the two ones that we work with is SADA, which is Saudi Arabia Drilling Academy, which focused on drilling. And then you have the SPSP, the institute that focused on electrician, mechanics, more trade kind of knowledge that you want to have at the end of the day.
Can I maybe just ask one question on this? Because the infrastructure you've just described has obviously taken many years to develop.
Yeah.
In your experience, I mean, you've worked in South America, you've worked all over Asia, you've had experience pretty much across every continent. Is the GCC as a bloc ahead of the game in terms of these sort of developmental institutions?
So, I was interviewed on the Sada Academy. Usually these institutes, it's owned by the service company. So, when I was in Schlumberger, we had 5 mega learning centers that we train our own people only. Other big companies have their own institute, but not having something that's open for public and supported by the government and ending with a job. I mean, you cannot be better than this. There is a lot of institutes outside, but having the support of the government, having the input of the companies who are getting the end product at the end of the day, and as well having the place itself, and you have the client involved. So you have all parties contributing to it.
Yeah.
The problem is today you would have a lot of institutes, they would teach certain things, maybe they're supported or not supported, but the end product is not what you want. Because when you say oil and gas, it's too general oil and gas.
Yeah.
So, but I want a specific requirement, and this is where it comes that at the end I want this output of that institute.
Thank you. Thank you, Ghassan. Nasser, could we maybe keep on the same question? And obviously you're an expert from Oman. Can you maybe give us an Oman perspective on this?
Thank you, Neil. I think when we say or we mention there is a gap to bridge between the academy and the industry, what we mean exactly how we move from knowledge to skill. And in fact, in Oman, we start to tackle this before actually the students graduate from the university. So we had an initiative called the I'dad program, and this program actually started from the industry itself. So the students, when he finished his 3rd year in a bachelor degree, for example, he leave for a full year of a placement at a company. And this is across sectors, not only in oil and gas. So he spent a full year as a trainee or as an employee in that company. And then he go back to complete his last year at the university with really a mindset of the industry itself, the challenges, the technical needs. So he really achieved several objectives. First, he knows the workplace. Second, he will be a potential, hire for these companies. They have seen him for a year. And third, he will fill any gap that he think is needed. So this is one. The second part is really after he graduates. So we have several program in some sort of internship, upskilling. What Ghassan is also mentioned, something we started already many years ago. We call it training for employment. So there is allocated fund by the governments. Actually, in every contract, for example, in the oil and gas, there is 1.2% of the contract value assigned for a national training fund, and that will goes to train all the job seekers in a company to pay part of their salary and also to train them. On the other side, for example, there was an initiative to make onboarding program, we call them. So when the student graduates, he involved in a few month programs, and then after that, he will be equipped for the full knowledge and skills he required to go for the industry. Another initiative, for example, in Oman, we count what we call the Omanization as part of the in-country value initiative. So there is a mapping of what is the work, what is the jobs needed in the market, and we try to map this with the graduation or the number of graduation in the academic. And then we try to have few initiatives, to bridge this gap between what is needed in the market and what is expected from the academic. Maybe another initiative that's really led from the academic point of view, which is really trying, to make some sort of alignment. In the subject and the technical requirement of the industry.
Thank you very much, Nasser. So look, time flies when you're having fun, and we're already well over halfway through this panel. So I'm going to switch the dialogue. With so much experience on the stage, I'd like to ask all of our panelists, and we'll go in the same order. So we'll start with Dr. Munira again. I'd like to ask the panelists to share with us an experience, an initiative that they have personally been involved in, which has made a tangible difference in national talent development. Now, I know that all of the panelists have multiple experiences they'd like to share. I'm going to ask you just to share one first, please, so we can get across everybody. You've got around about 2.5 minutes each-ish, and then hopefully that leaves a little bit of time for questioning. So, Dr. Munira.
Great. Just a very quick comment on Dr. Adil's point. I think I read the recent report that said we're going to have 2 billion in some kind of education and training by 2050, so that's even going to increase more. So we definitely need to change. So very quickly, an initiative that I think I'm very proud of, and we were partners supporting in this initiative happen, is called the MISC Virtual Work Experience. And it's under the MISC Foundation. It's one of the MISC Foundation programs. We supported in developing this program. And what it does basically, it supports fresh graduates to understand what it's like to work, for example, let's say we worked with many companies to do Islamic finance in Bloomberg. It's a 7-hour virtual work experience because what's really important is not only depth, but the breadth of experience you have as a young person to really decide what do you want to do with your life. It's really unrealistic to expect 18-year-olds to know what they want to do with their life. We give them, for example, another work experience was being a UX designer in Foodix, and Foodix is one of the new startups in Saudi and growing in the region. We had another virtual work experience, what it's like to be a junior consultant in BCG, and I think we had Accenture as well, SRMG, and many different sectors. So allowing students to understand, even for a very short period of time, what are the possibilities that you can have in your career. We've had very high enrollment in this program, over 90,000 fresh grads applied to that program, and we've seen them. It's not your traditional career advisory program. It just gives you an idea of what you could potentially do with your life.
Now, that sounds fantastic. I wish that had been there for me. I'm 54 and I'm still trying to work out what I want to do with my life. So, excellent. Dr. Adil, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. So I started a school called Citizens, and the idea is that the school has its own venture studio in it at the school level, whereby the current batch is a batch of teachers. I always use this analogy is that, if you are studying medicine, for example, most probably the one that will be teaching you medicine is a doctor, a medical doctor, yeah? Engineering, an engineer. But rarely that you find in studying business that the one teaching you is a businessman. And then that's on the one side. On the other side, why did we as humanity separated education from actual work experience? Why did we go to the level whereby, you don't work till you are 21 or whatever, and then, no, I believe to be realistic, what we need to produce in the first place, people that can handle entrepreneurship, handle the business world. If they choose to be employees, it's a lifestyle choice. It's not, but it's unfair to prepare them for employment and then wonder why do they get stressed when they do business. They are not geared to do that. I think what we need to do is to prepare them for entrepreneurship, and if they choose to be employed, it's up to them. Yeah? And with that, I created a school called Citizens. Citizens has 2 elements, key elements. A, it has an entrepreneurship curriculum, which we have developed, starting from age 4.
Wow.
And the idea is that by the time they reach grade 8, they get actually involved in an actual business. And the second thing is a venture studio that initially, and the program is called Teachers to Mentors, whereby the first batch is a batch of 10 teachers. They are meant to create 4 ventures within a year and a half, whereby statistically speaking, 3 of them most probably will fail. The reason why is that if we intend to teach kids entrepreneurship, the mentors, the teachers have to know how to do that, yeah? And if they don't have the knowledge, how will they deliver the knowledge, yeah? or the skill, how would they deliver the skill? Added to this, there are many academies that we are evolving. One is an academy whereby we use gaming for skilling. Another academy which focuses on sustainable farming, and so on and so forth. So we are trying to infuse practicality, actual life experience earlier on in their learning journey.
I absolutely love that. I have a 10-year-old. She already has her own Shopify account selling bracelets, but I need to send her to your school. So I will be in touch separately. Ghassan, let's move on, please, to you, sir.
I mean, a lot of initiatives come to mind, but maybe I won't say it's an initiative. When I joined Schlumberger 28 years ago, you know, they take you and straight you're out of your country, totally out of your comfort zone. I was a bit lost, and you do things maybe right by mistake, and you do a lot of things that are wrong, and no one gives you a bit of direction at the beginning when you're starting. And so I decided when I became in the management forums that I will need to give, you know, a bit of intro to anyone who joins. And when I say anyone who joins, regardless how low is the job, to what level. So in Schlumberger, we recruit hundreds. And I just decided that I meet everyone. Now, I did it because my own experience that I faced when I started, going to a different country, different people, and how to maneuver around. And I didn't know what was the impact at the end of the day. I was just doing it because I think it was right. Where I sit, of course, when we recruit, I don't meet one by one, but I meet a group of people, right? And it depends if they're high school students or university students or coming into management position. So I group them according to their category, and then I sit with them for an hour. But usually, because you're telling stories and experience of what happened to you when you started, it ends up not 1 hour, it ends up 3 or 4 hours discussion. So usually I have it at 4 o'clock. So if it takes long as much as it can, I'm okay. There's no client interference. And the story, and I was just doing it for the sake, I think it was the right thing for employees when they join the company to know what to do. So one time, I usually do this. Someone sent me an email, a Saudi guy who sent me an email, who I haven't seen for 6 years. He sends me an email, he says, Ghassan, just wanted to tell you I got promoted to management. And I just want to say thank you for the 4 hours you spent with us when I joined the company. And he literally wrote, he said, I have experienced tough times in my career. And if it was not for that time you spent with us, I would have resigned a long time ago. And I just realized, you know, you were doing something that gave a bit of light for people who did not know what to do. And since then, every time I get emails from people, I just realized it was a good initiative. And if you're the head and you're doing this, what happens? It cascades down. So now all the managers below you are doing the same thing. When someone joins, okay, Ghassan is going to meet him. No, we're going to meet him. Everyone's going to meet him. And then the person who comes on board starts knowing the organization and start knowing what needs to be done. And from practical experience. Because the problem is a lot of students, they come into the workforce and they think it's rosy. But it's not. Life is, you know, you're going to bang your head sometime and some things will go right, some things will go wrong. The problem is you do a mistake and you think you just have to change course and you have to resign and go out. And, you know, when I spoke to some of those employees today, I mean, they're excelling in their career and they say, look, some of the experience you got. Just one more initiative. I won't say it's an initiative. It was just by luck that I get invited to universities to give a speech. So I was invited by Equity University to give a speech, and I went and gave a speech in 2013. And then 6 years down the road, I was visiting Saudi. I moved out of Saudi, and I was visiting Saudi, and I met the new recruiter, and he asked me, did you visit Equity University? And I said, yes, I went for a speech. They invited me for a speech. I go give a speech. And he said, there is 3 or 4 girls who literally changed their course of education, went to the most difficult, at least for me, engineering, electrical engineering, which was given by Equity University. It was the only engineering degree. They moved from a normal, I think, architect to or design or computer or marketing. They went to electrical engineering. They graduated from electrical engineer to join Schlumberger at the end of the day. And today they're one of the young leaders in the oil and gas sector today. What I'm trying to say is it was not an initiative, is our presence in universities makes a huge impact
Yeah.
to the students
Excellent.
and gives them a lot of direction. Just want to share the truth.
Thank you very much, Gazan. We're going to move on in the interest of time. So, Nasser, in the taxi coming in today, you shared an excellent example with me. Can you please share that with the audience?
Thanks. I'll start from where Ghassan ended, actually, from the university itself. 10 years ago, actually, I took the lead of initiating a digital lab inside the university, in both in air science and in the College of Engineering. You know, when these guys, I mean, graduates and join the oil industry, it take them actually months to get trained to the digital and software solution. And you know, in the oil and gas, this is really very costly. For example, one version of this software can cost 1 million USD, right? And the training is really very costly and time consuming. So really to bridge this gap, we took the lead. We deploy this digital solution inside the university. So up to now, there's more than 1,000 students really graduated from these two university, already equipped with the right skills needed, and they can start immediately in their workplace. Myself, when I was in SLB, I was really happy to interview some of these candidates, and they were really in a good shape. Maybe I conclude with a small initiative that myself and Neil are really working on, which is what we call Athar, which is part of the HBS. This is the new initiative that we hope that will have impact. We are really looking to empower the GCC nationals to be in the executive level of the international company. So hopefully, a few years from now, we will see, inshallah, the impact of this initiative. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you very much, Nasser. So we have a few minutes left to take any questions from the audience. I can see a couple of hands going up. I'm going to start with Michael because I know he was going to ask one. So Michael, would you like to start? One second, let's get a microphone so the audience can hear.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Neil. I do have an academy where we certify people in enterprise risk management. So we've had internal discussions about AI and how do we use it. So in content creation, in teaching, in examination, in assessing the impact of the training. So I don't have the answer, but does anybody have any thoughts on AI and how that might be used?
Understand anything? No. We can't understand a word. The only thing I understood was AI. So maybe without the microphone, just speak nice and loudly. Right?
Okay, can you hear me now?
No, it's not an issue with the sound of your voice. It's an issue with the resonance. So just give us, just stand up and shout out.
Okay, yeah. So the question is about, obviously we start with real intelligence, and then, we build on with artificial intelligence. So the question is in education, as far as content creation, as far as teaching, as far as examination, as far as measuring the impact of the education. Does anybody have any thoughts on how to implement AI? And I definitely don't have the answer myself.
Okay, who would like to take that question?
I might have a... Thanks for the question. The question is, how can AI be leveraged and within the education sector so that at the end of the day, the future generations could actually make use of it? I think AI, and it's a very probably personal opinion, AI will enable education to change and model, meaning, and instead of us delivering knowledge to students, whereby the teacher is the vessel of knowledge, we just need to teach the students how to leverage of the internet, inclusive of AI, in order for them to extract knowledge as they develop solutions and solve problems. And what AI would do is just give them 10 times what they would be able to do on their own. So it just amplifies their capabilities hundreds of times. I'm sorry, it's hundreds of times. So if I'm asked today to do a research on the targeted audience for a game, something that would have costed us tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, using consultants, and then take that material and shape it up through an editor, probably a content creator, and so on, with a click of a type of a sentence, you can get all of that delivered to you. So it has just saved the student days and weeks and a lot of money and, uh, and getting things done. So I think from that perspective, and if education evolves in a way whereby the student is the one that asks for knowledge, not us pushing knowledge into the student, then I think that will be super useful.
And that is the paradigm shift that AI is bringing, isn't it? Definitely.
Not only in this and everything,
No.
but I believe it starts at the school. We should start it at the school.
I think the students need to learn how to use it properly. My 10-year-old wanted me to let her download ChatGPT, and I refused because I knew she just wanted to cheat at her homework. But if she's taught how to use it correctly, then there's an incredible power to be harnessed there. I'm just going to ask Jenny. Jenny, where are you? Time is up. We've got a lot of questions. Do we have time for one more? Two, okay. Sir, please.
Yeah, and so my question is for Munira and Adil. You mentioned a term called future university. I hear that a lot, but what would...
Do the question without the mic, yeah.
My answer is really nobody knows. And I'm definitely not going to know. But what's really interesting is that a lot of even the well-respected universities today are asking these questions and are designing models that are currently being tested. So, for example, there is a concept called micro-universities that is being tested, which is basically a one professor and 20 students that deep dive into a particular topic and that are spread across the country. And that's being tested in the US. There is a concept called the nomad university, which is what I spoke about, the no place, nowhere type of university that is really an experiential curriculum. So our university is going to change? Yes. Is it sustainable to continue in the existing model? No, because if we have 2 billion students going into the education system, governments are going to have to spend more on education. We're going to have to be more creative about financing education, so something has to change. What does it look like? I think we have the opportunity today, especially in Saudi. We have the Human Capital Development Program that focuses a lot on building a globally competitive citizen to even test and design what future higher education looks like.
Thank you very much, Dr. Munir. One last question.
Students, if that's possible, because they're relevant to the topic. Yes. And I'd like to say that this is very impressive panel, great combination, background and nationality-wise, I think background-wise, also diversity. Maybe there's little room for improvement for gender diversity. You're doing well. My question is about diversity. Not pushing in the direction of, nationalization might be perceived like you're not pushing in the direction of diversity. Well, diversity is key for innovation. And like Hassan and some of you working in multinational companies, diversity is key, it's important. While in some of the local labor laws, national talent or nationalization is a mandate as well. I think in Saudi it's between 40 to 60%. In UAE it was 6, it's becoming 8 and 10 the following year, I believe. I'd like to hear your perspectives on how do you go about diversity versus national talent development, and nationalization.
So I'm going to pass that one to Gassan, but before I do that, I'm just going to defend my panel, because this is the most diverse panel of the 2 days, because no other panel has a Scottish-Italian moderator. Gassan.
So I mean, I come from an industry that is men-dominated. And luckily, I was groomed in a company that looks at gender diversity and nationality diversity. And there is a lot of talk saying, you know, I get a lot of questions, are they meant for the job? Actually, I was on a podcast like a month ago, and this question came up. And I was saying, who am I to decide? Today, in our job, in the oil industry, it's a tough industry, yes. But there is a lot of men who don't like it as well. So if you ask a man, would you like to work? Some of them, I mean, half of my friends would like to work on, you know, in the middle of the desert, and some would not. But the same thing for females. I mean, if she wants to work, if I provide, I told them what I have to do is I need to provide the environment that fits our culture and our religion. Then it's up for her to decide if she wants to be there or not. But I tell you, I have seen a huge benefit of adding the female part, because they come with a totally different perspective, number one. And as well, they see things a bit different when it comes to detail. So I come, again, Schlumberger, we are very dominated with multinational. So when I was managing Saudi, I had 35 nationalities under. So, which is not normal. But that's the company policy, that you have to have multinational. The school I come from, Schlumberger, is when you have multiple nationality, you come with different views. When I was managing Saudi, I had one Brazilian, one Australian, one from the UK, one from Canada, one from Egypt, one from Syria. Everyone comes with a different perspective according to the experience he or she had from their country. And that's why in SLB, they move you around. So when you come and manage your country, you come with a wealth of experience to your country at the end of the day. But I really believe, I mean, when I joined Arabian Drilling, I told them we only have 3 nationalities. We have Saudis, Egyptians, and Algerians. I said there is other nationalities in the world. And we started to diversify because it adds a lot of wealth of knowledge when you're problem solving, when different ways of solving things. So I really think that it's very important to have a bit of diversity in nationality that makes a lot of impact on the organization.
Okay, I'd like to add to this point.
Will allow me.
Yes, no problem.
And I don't shy away from saying statements that occasionally hit a nerve. Allow me to put on 2-3 points on this. I'll give you an example on my school. It's called Citizens. The original name was Global Citizens. I wanted to produce global citizens that have a good quality of life, that knows how to, be entrepreneurs. Schools in the UAE, if you are a British curriculum school, a lot of the measures that parents take is how many British staff you have. And it was a very challenging thing for me because I wanted a true global school that accommodates views from the globe. And I took a very hard decision for a brand that is new to actually say, no, it will be a global school. You will care for diversity. Because if we are to promote that we are global citizens and we want to produce global citizens, we better not be pushed around and deliver on that. Now that's on the one side. On the elements of nationalization, allow me to put 2 points there. I'm an academic in the subject of family businesses. And I understand one thing. I've always heard consultants saying, you only attract family members, and in this context, nationals, that have proven themselves somewhere else, and then you bring them to your business. I used to think that is logical. Realistically speaking, it's not. I have a different statement to this. I say today, I rather pay for my mistakes than pay for somebody else's mistakes. I'll pay for the mistakes of my kids, for my nationals, even if they are not the best. But I'll pay for them because this is their money at the end. What is our role? What is the role of governments but to provide the best quality of life for its people? And at times when GDP becomes competitive to quality of life should always prevail, despite of whether it is totally logical or not. And they will learn at the end. If you believe in them, they will learn. So I don't mind. They are more expensive, but it's their money at the end, isn't it? So I take it from that perspective. And excuse me if I have touched on a nerve in here.
Thank you, Dr. Dale. So before closing the panel, I just want to make one comment on this diversity concept, because this is very much in my area of expertise also. To talk about diversity without talking about inclusion, you're actually missing the whole point, because the research, the data shows that a diverse team which is not inclusive will underperform a homogeneous team. Diverse teams that outperform are inclusive, which means you need inclusive leadership from the top, making sure that all of this diversity works together efficiently. Otherwise, it will underperform a homogeneous team. So you can't talk about diversity without inclusion. That would be my closing point. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to join me in thanking our wonderful panel. We still have time?
From the students.
Please, yes. If we have a question from the students,
Okay.
please. Ladies, this is your platform, so feel free. I'd like to hear questions from any student in the hall. We can make some time for you, of course. Yes, the microphone will come to you, or if you're loud like me, I can also lend you my voice or my microphone if there's too much echo.
There you go. Hello. I would like to ask Dr. Adil, you talked about how receiving knowledge as a student should be in a form of happiness and not as a forced form of knowledge, the same way it is right now. And Dr. Munira, you talked about how we should experience the workforce rather than choosing our futures or what we want to do later on with no knowledge. So how do you think, or how long do you think the course of that to change would take?
I can speak about that for hours, so I don't think we have hours.
Great question.
I think maybe we can speak one-on-one after this. I'll have to speak one-on-one with you, but the first 5 years after graduation are yours, and they're really important for you to experience what you want to do and to understand what you like. And I think what's more important, or what will help you really answer what you want to do, is trying to be very mission-driven. And if your mission is to build a particular skill in the next 5 years, that's fine. But if you understand what your mission is, then you can work backwards, and we can try to find exactly what works. But experience as many opportunities as you can, and it's okay for it to be painful. You might not necessarily always be happy. With that, I disagree. Sometimes it requires a lot of pain and failure.
If I may ask, the subject is very dear to my heart. And that's out of getting stressed in life. If you seek happiness or success, rest assured that these are very imaginary concepts in life. These are man-made. They are not real. I think what you should seek and try to measure on a daily basis, and the more days you have, which you consider good, the better, is whether you sleep in peace and you wake up excited. If you go through life and you go through a stage in your life whereby you are not sleeping in peace, so many days, and you don't wake up excited so many days, you need to change. And what does that really mean in practice? Is that you need to continue trying things, because if nobody knows their path, and unless you try different paths, you will never reach to a place where you think you have your peace in and your excitement at. So I think, practically speaking, the only measure of what people refer to as happiness or success is peace and excitement, hope. Those are the true feelings behind things. That's my opinion.
I love that. Sleep in peace, wake up in excitement. I'm going to try and do that.
It's very hard.
That's my takeaway. Thank you. Jenny, are we done or?
I think so. I'm afraid just to be respectful of the coming panels and to be able to give them their own time as well. I know this panel should have another hour at least, but I'm afraid we'll have to wrap it up, yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't understand a word you said.
It's Jessie though, not Jenny.
So are we done or not?
I have to say. Yeah, we have to wrap it up. Apologies.
Wrapping up.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like you to join me in thanking this wonderful panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.